I asked your mayor a question, which was, the percentage of the population of Connecticut that is Black is over 10%. The percentage of the population that is Black in Greenwich is between 3.3 and 3.7%. How did that happen?
People choose to live where they choose to live. It's not that they're kept out. I mean, why is the reverse true in San Diego and San Francisco, where you have more minorities than you have others? Why is that? People go where they want to go, and people go where they can afford to live and where they can find work. I believe we're 37% minority in the town of Greenwich.
Yes, you count Asians and other minorities that have never been discriminated against.
Well, why do we have to label people by a certain class? Why aren't people just people? Why do we have to classify certain groups?
Given a bad deal historically, like all the Black veterans who were discriminated against under the GI Bill, and we think that we should consider what we've done historically.
I don't know that to be true. I'll just take it for what it's worth.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Winkler. I will just pause just for a moment and say I think that there have been a number of minority groups who have faced discrimination over time, and particularly I think in light of what happened in Atlanta last week. I just wanted to note that I know we have Representative FIORELLO, I believe. Actually, did I see your hand? And
yes, thank you.
Go ahead, Representative FIORELLO.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, for making that comment. So I won't go there. Thank you. I wanted to ask Mr. Romeo, thank you so much.
Need to be a give and take. So thank you again.
Thank you. And I see that Senator Wong is.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you may allow me a second time, I appreciate, I know the hour's been long, but I was touched by your explanation in regards to structural racism and how it still exists and how this country has had the challenge of racism as we move forward. But I must say, racism exists all amongst us. And I was in another meeting, but I must say the tremors have been felt when colleagues in the General Assembly talk about the fact that there are no racism against, I may have gotten a second hand, but I want to be clear in saying this. For anybody who says that there is no bias or racism against Asian Americans, I might have heard a second hand, but I got to tell you, those kind of statements are absolutely unacceptable anytime. And the colleague is pretty darn lucky that I was not in the meeting to hear those kind of derogatory statements, because it is absolutely unacceptable. And if it was misinterpreted by people and shared with me, then I apologize. But if the ignorance of my colleagues to say that any racial group have not struggled with bias, prejudice, is absolutely unacceptable. And if it indeed a colleague said that, I demand that he apologize and understand what he said was beyond inflammatory, beyond derogatory, and beyond ignorant. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak ahead of time. I was moved when you said that structurally we have bias and racism and that we're looking to address it. But I got to tell you, for the colleague that might have listened to so many of these debates, for the individual to utter those words, I'm absolutely disappointed and I'm infuriated. And I got a second hand. If I got in a first hand, I will tell you, those kind of comments will never be able to be standing. There's no tolerance for it. There's no place for it. And if indeed it was said, Madam Chair, and you did not correct it, I must say, it is absolutely unacceptable. Thank you, Madam Chair. And the colleague can feel free to call me directly, and I'm more than happy to give him an explanation to talk about bias, prejudice, bigotry. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Wong. And it sounds like you were not here in the meeting at the time. Let me just give us all a chance to pause. These are very difficult conversations. And to Senator Wong, your point, I know that you're back and forth between meetings. As we have been sitting here today, one of the things that I've been doing is trying to write a little bit in between about what happened last week in Atlanta. And what we know is that we've seen tremendous rise in hate crimes. We also know that racism is real, structural racism and racism within ourselves. These are very, very difficult conversations. And I very much appreciate your remarks, Senator Wong, and I certainly can't begin to understand exactly what your experience is as a white woman. I would like to, I see that you have your hand up again, and I will give you an opportunity to speak. I think this is one of the difficulties about not being together in the building. So Senator Wong, I will recognize you again.
No, Madam Chair, I just forgot to lower the hand. Thank you very much. And I will share with you, I appreciate your efforts, and you have run a very good meeting. And you're absolutely right. I heard it secondhand, and if indeed I heard it firsthand, I would have not ever allowed it to stand. And I had hoped through you, Madam Chair, that you will demonstrate the lack of no tolerance and correct the erroneous presumptions of colleagues that might have misspoken. So moving forward, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to address it. I was moved by what you talked about, structural racism. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I will recognize Representative Fiorello.
Mom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate Senator Wong chiming in. And Senator Wong, you did not mishear it. And it was really, it struck an incredible chord. And Representative McCarthy did try to address it. I do want to say, though, that, you know, we're speaking about structural racism, but buildings or laws that were racist have been eradicated in our country. We have multiple layers of legislation to make it so that your natural rights based on your race, sex, color, etc., cannot be violated. But racism does exist in the hearts of people, absolutely, for sure. And the current exchange that happened in this call is a perfect example of that. And I've always felt that racism can only be solved on an individual basis. And maybe that's what we're doing right now. But you know, which is why I bristle at the idea that an entire town can be called racist. So this is an incredible opportunity to have this conversation, but it is people that are racist, and laws are here to protect individual rights. This is a country that's founded on protecting the smallest minority, and that is the individual. So God bless our country. Thank God we're all here. We have structures actually to protect our natural rights. And it's people, the racism in the hearts of people that we work every day to change, and we change that with conversations and persuasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Fiorello. And I think we all have different opinions about it, but your experience and your perspective about the role of conversations between individuals is absolutely true. I think, like I said, I think we have different ideas about structures that continue to perpetuate things, but point well taken in that we absolutely have the ability and have in our laws in so many ways addressed some of those things. Representative Winkler.
every immigrant group has been discriminated against in the past and is being discriminated against currently. But Blacks have suffered the most. Every immigrant group that has come in has risen through and above the Blacks, while other immigrant groups, one after the other, the Polish, the Irish, whatever, came in and rose up. Blacks have always been at the bottom and have remained there. And so they're the group that I look to when I'm trying to judge how well people are doing for the most downtrodden, the most oppressed. So that's my focus. And like I said, every group's been discriminated against, but my focus is on the Blacks, and I will continue to do that.
Thank you, Representative Winkler. Senator Wong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to be recognized and follow the process. Doesn't seem like an apology to me. And Representative Winkler, I know we're not supposed to address the body, but let me be clear. Racism against any group, Black, Latino, Asian, religion, orientation, disability, is not acceptable. So I am just beyond appalled that you would selectively say one is no worse than the other. Let me be clear. Racism against anyone and bias is never acceptable. There is no tolerance for it. And I'm appalled that you don't feel a compulsion or an understanding to apologize to Asian Americans that you just disparaged because you believe they have been discriminated less. You have never been in their shoe. There should be no tolerance for any group, not one versus another. Thank you, Madam Chair.